This week we're going to look at my 6 favourite tools, the 6 that I couldn't manage without. I'm tempted to start with these 3, but that's already been done.
Take these 3 items right here. You can have this WD-40, vice grips, and some duct tape.
Welcome back to Deer Valley Homestead. My name's still Andy, and this week we are talking tools. Not the outdoor tools, the indoor tools. I'm talking the stuff you are going to need to have around to be able to build and maintain. Homesteaders are famous for doing it themselves, and there's good reason for that. It's cheaper. Sure, I can go out and buy a chicken coop and spend $2.5 grand, and it'll be great. It'll do everything I need it to do, and I'll have some happy chickens. But I can go out and buy the wood, the screws, and all the equipment I need to make it, and still save money. And then we're going to have a look at how we built up such a big collection of tools anyway, and how you can build up a big collection of tools at a good price. First up, it's time to pick your poison. Is it blue? Is it yellow? Is it green? For me, it's blue. You are definitely going to want to buy a drill and an impact driver, and at some point you're going to have to decide which system to buy into. I've gone with blue just because it was what I used previously with work and I quite liked it. You can buy into a whole bunch of different systems, but what you're going to end up with is 5 different chargers with 5 different kinds of battery, and that just doesn't help anyone. If you stick to the same brand, one kind of battery, excellent. Everything will be able to swap in and out as you need it to. So my first 2 tools. One is a drill. Go for something that's multi-use. So this drill has a hammer function, has a screwdriver function, and it has a drill function. In other words, I can do all 3 jobs with one tool. Number 2, an impact driver. While you may have a screw gun feature on your drill, an impact driver is second to none for getting the job done. I spent years avoiding them, and when I finally got one, I realized what I was missing out on. With this, and I don't count this as one of my 6 tools, but get yourself a really good set of bits for the end. Get yourself one of the best sets you can afford. It will last you, and there's nothing worse than having all the equipment and not having the size bit that you need. Number 3, get yourself a speed square, okay? Something like this, big, ugly, plastic, doesn't matter. It will save you so much time. When you're building most things for the homestead, while you are looking to make things square, you don't need the accuracy of the other kind of squares. Something like this is going to get you close enough and is going to be good enough to get your job done. Number 4, get yourself a good miter saw. You don't need to spend a huge amount of money. My latest one was just under 250 euros, and that came with 3 different blades, one for metal, one for wood, and one for fine woodwork. My old miter saw was about 100 euros. I got that about 10 years ago. Number 5, this mat right here. This mat saves me so much time, it's unbelievable. It has so many angles marked on it, circles, measurements. It just makes it so easy to lay something out. On one side, I have all the metric, and on the other side, I have all of the imperial. It is probably the biggest time-saving tool that I own, and it was one of the cheapest. Number 6, and I think some of you will think this is a bit of a cheat, but in my opinion it still counts as one tool. Get yourself a multi-tool kit like this. I was given this one about 4 years ago for my birthday, and between this kit and the other tools that I've mentioned, I can do every job that I need to on the homestead. Of course, I often use a lot more tools than that, and that's because I'm a bit tool crazy. So there you have it. There's my 6 tools that I would start out with, but what about the rest of it?
I can't afford to buy all this stuff. Well, I guess even a bonehead like you could understand that a man acquires this over a period of 50 years.
Of course, I have a huge amount more tools than that, and that's a collection that I've built up over time. If you go out and try and buy yourself a full workshop full of tools, you will break the bank, you will need to use your credit card, and you could easily spend 10, 15 grand to get a fairly decent setup. But I'm here to tell you that's not what you need to do. What you need to do is start slow. Buy tools as you need them or when you see a really good deal. If you buy cheap, you buy twice. And to some degree that is true, but with tools, I generally find you can buy cheap and get away with it. I have hundreds of tools here, and I think I've only broken about 2. What you're going to find is that tool that you really need, you really want, you're going to use it a couple of times, and then you're probably going to find another way to do the job that doesn't need that tool anyway. Personally, I prefer to buy cheap and then upgrade if I need to. And honestly, it's pretty rare that I need to upgrade. You need to realize that what you're doing on the homestead is not precision cut carpentry. It's not the stuff that requires the expensive tools. How do you end up building up a big tool collection without breaking the bank? The first one is easy. Car boot sales, garage sales are just amazing. They are a treasure trove of stuff. Probably around a quarter of the tools that I have in here have come from garage sales, and all of them have cost me 10% or less of what they would have cost me new. For example, I got myself this Dremel mini router kit. If you buy it new in the shop, I think it's about 30 or 40 quid. I got this for £2 at the car boot sale. Do I need it? Probably not. Here is another example. Nice big heavy duty pipe wrench. This I'm sure will outlast me. This was what my dad found for me at a car boot sale, and I think again he paid a couple of pounds for it. I was looking at one of these in the shop the other day and it was over €50. The next place to look for cheap tools is eBay, Facebook Marketplace, all of those online forums. There are some amazing deals out there, especially if you're willing to buy something that's broken and fix it yourself. I now have a collection of about 30 or 40 Makita tools. Of those, only 4 of them were bought new. All of the rest I've bought broken and then fixed them myself. There's a lot of videos showing you how to do it and it's really not that complicated. But for example, this Makita sander, I think I've shown it before. I paid €5 for it broken. It cost me €17 for a new motor. If I want to buy it new, it's over €100. This is a drywall screw gun. This one I paid €20 for and it had a loose wire. That was it. This one's a hammer drill and I got this secondhand on eBay in a working condition for €30. If I want to buy it new, I'm sure it's well over 100 if not €200. One of the things that happens when you have a workshop is people will just start to give you broken tools. Things that they've broken themselves, they don't know how to fix, or they just don't need anymore. And they'll be like, hey, do you want this? Yeah, of course I'll take that. Thank you very much. Finally, buying new tools. Breaks down into 2 categories for me. That is buying in the shops and buying online. I mentioned it before. I'm not a carpenter. I'm not working to a high level of tolerance. I'm building a chicken house. I don't need the best, latest tool. I generally find the basic level will do the job just fine and I get good results. Secondly, buying online. Now look, I try to buy everything in the country that I'm living in, just as a matter of pride, supporting the local economy and all those kind of things. But sometimes when the price difference is that high, you just can't say no to a good deal. If you get yourself on Alibaba, any of those websites, you will find some amazingly cheap tools. So look, an expensive tool will get you a better result if you know how to use it properly. For most of us just doing DIY stuff, the cheap tool or the expensive tool are going to get us the same results. We're not experts, we're not trained carpenters, and nor are we trying to be. You could give me a €1,000 miter saw, but I'm going to get a pretty similar result as I do with my €250 miter saw, because I'm not an expert in how to set it up, how to use it, and all of those things. All I need is a cut in the wood that's roughly 90 degrees. Next up, hardware. Do yourself a favor and go and buy these 4 things. They're going to save you a lot of trips to the hardware store, and that's a lot of time. Number 1, mixed pack of nails. Simple. Number 2, a big multi-pack of screws. And whenever I need a screw, I have the right size here. I don't need to go and buy it. This pack, I think, was something like 2,000 screws, and it was about €20. Get yourself a mixed pack of bolts, nuts, washers. Simple. This one, €2 from Parkside. You can't go wrong. I only have to use 1 or 2 nuts from there, and I've already saved my money back in petrol. Or gasoline. And number 4, wall plugs. The most expensive piece of hardware that you are going to buy in the next 5 years is the fuel for your car on the way to the hardware shop. Get rid of as many of those journeys as you can and just buy a bunch of multi-packs like this. My last top tip for you today is to keep 2 containers like this, or maybe even 3. It's impossible to keep a full hardware shop on your shelf. There's always going to be something you need to go to the shop for. But I find at least half the time I can find something old that will do until I'm going to the shop anyway. Keep 1 for screws and 1 for nuts, bolts and washers. I don't know the next time I'm going to need a nut that big, but this one cost me nothing and it can save me that trip to the shop. This is a classic example of a tool which can cost you a lot of money. A good quality pillar drill, it's going to cost you over €1,000, dollars, pounds, whatever you want to call it. This one was €180. It does everything I need it to do. I could have gone and spent €1,000 on a drill press, but there's no way that I'm going to drill €1,000 worth of holes. Other things, fixing old tools. I mentioned it already. When people realize that you like your tools and then you're collecting tools, that you're building your workshop, you just end up being given things. I got this vise from a neighbor. It was a rusty mess. Been in his cellar for 20 something years. He never used it. He was like, "Oh, I've got a rusty vise in the cellar. Do you want it?" Me? Of course I want it. I took it, I cleaned it up. Cost me a couple of hours, of course, but now it's my main working vise. If I want to go and buy one of these, €100–200, no problem. Another one here. This is a tool that I would never go and buy myself. It's for threading pipes, but I was given it because people see that I like this kind of stuff, that I will fix it and that I will use it. There is, however, one area where you should spend some money, and that is some good quality drill bits. If you buy cheap, you will buy 200 times. Buy something with good quality and learn how to use them. They will last you a long time. My next piece of advice is one of the most difficult ones to follow. And that is when you need a particular tool and you go looking for it, you will normally find one of the more expensive versions of it. If you're not looking for a tool, you'll generally find a good quality version at a good price. One of the last places where a lot of my tools came from was work. One of the things that used to happen in the offshore wind industry was at the end of a contract, we would take all the tools back into the shore and they would all get thrown away. This was done for a couple of reasons, but mostly it was to do with tax. They would export them to the vessel to work on the wind farm, and then it wasn't worth the money to re-import them. They'd put these big skips next to the boat and ask us to throw all of these tools in there, a lot of them new and unused. And of course, we did exactly what they told us to do. Well team, that's it for this week. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Next week we'll be looking at the quail, we're laying some concrete, and we'll probably have a look at outside tools as well.